Hey Ultra Buddies, it's Gankun, and today we'll be doing this deck profile video for our Kaiju Killer G deck. So we've been cooking up this mono G variant that deals specifically with Omega and helps you take care of those pesky Medio Kaijus and has a lot of good toolkits to deal with other decks like Zero, your other BP5 decks like Decker, and even have some options against those Belial matchups that you might see at your upcoming qualifiers. So let's get talking about this specific deck. So this is a mono G. We're going to throw in some promo Zetons, a couple Kaiju specific killers, and we'll go through each of the cards, how to play this deck, and how to really think about your starting hand and playing from turn 1 to turn 4, which is like the big turn of this deck. So first we'll go through what all these cards do and go from there. So starting us off, we have our level 1s. 8 level 1s. This deck wants to build triples, and it's a mono deck, so it has a lot more room for that. Though we're not building, too many. I think 8 is enough for the whole deck, just because G really excels with building doubles. So first we have the level 1 draw card. So with this one's effect, we will reveal 3 cards, and you get to take one Ultra Hero from among them, and then put the rest in your discard. So pretty standard draw ability. Uh, really good for this to figure out and find that missing piece you'll need to really win the rest of the game. Then we have this other level 1. So this one has an ability when you play it as a single. Uh, you can take the top card of one of your double Gs and put it back in your hand and give one of your characters plus 1000 for the turn. Now this ability is also kind of interesting if you play like your starter deck G or anything that has like a good on play ability. You can put it back in your hand and play again later, but to be honest, there haven't been too many scenarios where I feel like this has been game breaking. I think I've only actually chosen to use it one time out of like a good number of matches. So something to keep in mind. You can sometimes play around this and set something up, but otherwise this just fills the role of having another level 1 for your deck. So next we'll go into the level 2s. So here we have the 16, 18 level 2s. So again, very heavy on level 2s. This deck's going to build a lot of doubles, and it is still a mono deck. So we'll go through each of these. Starting off, we have the BP1 double R. So this one is an interesting one. One of a kind effect, really, where if on play as a double specifically, if your opponent is also a double, you may have this character tie that battle for this turn. So meaning that if you play this on turn 3 and your opponent also plays a double, there is zero way you can lose the game. So this can be really handy for when you really need to stall for one more turn, and we'll talk about why that can be really important later. Then we have the BP3 double R level 2. This is a scene search. You can play this one, reveal the top 5 cards from your deck, and then take one scene among them, and then put the rest in discard. So pretty standard, very important effect that we'll get into. Then we have our level 2s here. This is a basic type 5, 12k double. Really good doubles to have in this deck. At 12k, you're able to take lead when you need it. And more importantly, it's really a basic type. When we go into its BP grade up effects for some of the other stuff, you can later have this one actually be a 5k as a single and still get bumped up to 12k. So pretty handy overall. Then we have our 2 new level 2s from BP5. So this one's a power type, 7, 10, 13k. And this one on play, you may give a basic or speed type plus 1000 for the turn. So this is our more important one because this deck is fairly heavy on the basic types. And then we do have a couple power types here. So actually, it's really only these two. So really this one's effect is to give your basic types 1000. You can use that to maybe tie some important lanes. This is an 18k. If you play this and make this 19k, that might help you win certain tied lanes. So good to have overall, though, just more level 2s. This is another one that is a speed type. I feel like it's always nice to have just a small dash of speed, though I could also argue that it's probably better to just swap this out for other basics. But this one does have the benefit of giving a power or armed type plus 1000, just like this effect. And this deck does run a few more arm types than what you might otherwise see in a mono G deck. So this one's earned its spot in this specific setup, though if you start taking out the arm types and adding in more basics, you could probably also swap this for something else. Now, then we have our level 3s. So this is like the main powerhouse of the deck. Your level 3s, this is kind of what gets you the wins. So we have 15 of these. So we'll go through kind of in most important to least important. We have our new magnificent triple R. So this one is a 7, 12, 18K, and it has an activate only as a triple. So this one's activate ability is you can reveal a Geed card from your hand, and then give one of your Geeds of that same type a BP grade increase. So if this is your triple, and let's say you later played this 7K as a single, if you have an arm type in your hand and you reveal it, you're able to give that a BP grade increase to 14. That's really powerful in this deck. It's really interesting because then any lane you might be losing or tying, you can give BP grade increase. If you play like a 2-3 or a 1-2 double in the latest lane and you have that same type, you can bump it up. So it's effectively like a triple grade power. And that'll win a lot of lead lanes for many deck situations. So really handy. Don't forget that you can even take a 2-3-4 level 4 and then bump that to 20k if you have a basic type. So really versatile, powerful card. It's also 18k. This is kind of like the triple you'll probably want to build around most games. Then for our other level 3s, and this is where feel free to, of course, mix and match based on your preferences, your playstyles, and even like what you're seeing in your local meta. So this is a starter deck Geed. I think this is actually probably one of the most important ones in this deck. Might even consider moving one of these into this spot. But this one is a 7, 11, 17k power type. And when you play this as a single or a double, you can give a BP grade increase of a double Geed. Or to a double Geed. So if you actually play this card as a double in, let's say, turn 3, you can bump itself up to 17k. So this card is pretty reliable for taking lead if you play this in the latest lane as a double. Of course, 17k can be beaten, or if your opponent is like Omega and they hit a Valganus, then this will drop to 11k. So this can still lose, of course, but against many decks, or if you save this for later in the game, 17k is pretty hard to beat when your opponent's low on cards and doesn't have as many of their options. So something to keep in mind. Then our last 8 level 3s arm types. So we have the BP1 double R, Geed Claw. So now this one is a 7, 14k, 16k. Wanted to call out that this is a 14k double BP. So you could play this as a 2-3 and a 14k, and that number is actually really important. That will beat all Medio Kaiju doubles. Important. It'll beat most 2-3 doubles from other Ultra Hero decks unless they're also running a 14k. And if you just bump this later, you can beat a lot of triples. So or doubles at least. So really important card. And this one's effect, again, as a triple, you can activate it and give, for no cost, any of your Ultra Heroes plus 1000 for the turn. Really important. This is another source of getting this to 19k, which would be really important for tying any 18k ties. So now we have the last level 3 here, the Kaiju Killer. So this is the Geed Claw. This is a 7, 13k, 16k. But this one's effect is if it's a double and your opponent is a Kaiju, this gets a plus 3000 BP. So with that, pretty much you can play this as double and you'll beat every Medio Kaiju. Just like the 14k, this one is effectively a 16k. And if you actually give this a BP grade up, it becomes a 19k if you're playing this as a double with a BP grade up against a Kaiju. And that will pretty much lock out and beat any Kaiju that's pretty much out there in the game. Maybe short of like a promo Zeton. So with this, these are the cards. Okay, and then we have our level 4s. So I would say Geed doesn't really need to have level 4s, really any more than 2. With this deck, Geed has a really interesting effect. So the level 4 here, when it's a level 4, you can basically activate one of the effects of a level 3 Geed and pay its regular cost, but it doesn't have to be like a triple. Like if it's a single or double, you can still activate it. So if you have this as a quad on the field, you could later in the game, let's say turn 4, you could play this as single, and then you can still use the level 4 Geed's effect to activate it, being able to give it actually itself a BP grade up. You could even play this as like a 2-3, and if you have a basic type, basically make this 18k. So really handy effect. I think it's also more important that you can have this as a 20k quad, or you can level up since you're playing so many doubles, a 2-3 into a 17k. So really reliable from that point of view. Though it just gets awkward because if you play this on top of a triple, well, these are the two cards you really want to build triples towards, and they have their own activate effects that you'll effectively turn off. So really strong, but takes some getting used to. Now for the remaining cards, of course, we have two promo Zetons. These cards are really good at shutting off Omega and a lot of other mono decks like Decker, Zero, maybe Mono Tigas. So it's good to have at least two of these in the deck. Like you could run four, but if you're playing this in like a two deck format, you might need to save your other two Zetons or for something else. So we'll talk about how to really play this in a bit, but if you're playing mono deck, it's a reliable 20k, and that will win you a lane. So then on to our scene cards. So we have the 5 scenes here. We have 2 of the BP5 scene. This is the King's Miracle Time to Change Fate. So this is a round 2 scene, so you can play it from round 3 onwards. And when you play this, or when you have this scene out, when you activate a level 3 G's ability, so pretty much from one of these guys, then you can draw a card and then send this to discard area. So this is a really great way for drawing cards. Once you've got this set up, you can take turn 2 lead, play this, and get cards. So this deck doesn't draw too much, so can run out of steam and gas pretty quickly when you get to turn 5. That being said, though, this deck does play a lot more doubles than singles, so you actually don't need as many cards to get to turn 5 safely. But you do have to be mindful of the triples you play. You don't want to just rush triples that don't win their lanes. And then this is like the key card of the set. This is really what your game plan is going to revolve around. The round 4 scene, So That I Can Be Me. So how this scene works is once it's on the field, you can activate its effect, send that card to the discard, and give all of your Gs a PP grade increase of 1 for the turn. So that means if you have this card as a single, it's 11k. If you have this as a single, it's 14k. You could play this as a double. A couple turns later, it's back to 11k. With this, it's 17k. This card, it becomes like a 12k. And if you have another magnificent triple on the field, you can play one card and get straight to 18k in that turn. So that's why you don't really need too much gas. But your focus is how do you get to this scene on turn 5? So with that, we have kind of all the cards here. So how do you play this deck? Pretty much the goal is play this scene and then win everything with that. So when you get your starting hand, a lot of the gameplay when I'm playing this deck against Chris is how do I set up my hand or board such that I win turn 4 no matter what. That's the turn you want to go all in on. If I have a promo Zeton, I'll play that turn 4 if it's going against like Omega. If I have like this card as a double, playing this turn 4, it's 17k. Or if I have like the Magnificent Triple, I'll maybe play this as a single and set it up such I can bump this to 14k. Whatever you do or whatever you have, like you want to think about up until turn 4, how do I build the biggest turn 4 possible and then survive along the way? So of course you don't want to lose turn 4. You have to pretty much with this game plan win lane 4 and then tie or win one of the other lanes. So keeping that in mind, you can kind of set yourself up. If you know your opponent's going to play like a big Omega in a certain lane, unless you're able to tie it with this card, and it might be even better just to set something else up, just to make sure you're able to win either his lane 2 or 3, and then you set up for a really big turn 4. So then we have this, and let's talk about like why this is really good against Omega specifically. So when you're playing this game or with this deck, you'll end up building a lot of doubles, and these are pretty much a 2-3 doubles you'll be focusing around. So these are the cards you'll pretty much want to build as a triple in order priority. This is your main goal for a triple to give BP grades up, or this one as a triple to give plus 1000. With this, you're worried about like Reckinesses and Valganesses for Omega matchups. So if you have access to a BP grade up, you can kind of cancel out any scary Valganess effects. So if they have their Omega Triple R out and they're milling 4 cards every turn, you kind of can figure out what lanes do you need to make sure you don't lose to survive until turn 4. So if you give a BP grade up to one of your lanes that's already winning, then that BP grade up will effectively kind of cancel out the Valganess effect. So then they have to hit like a Valganus and a Reckiness, or like two Valganuses or something crazy to win that lane. So it's a great way to either win your turn 4 lane or protect a really important lane. This one's also a really handy one because that plus 1000 can break a lot of ties. If you have a triple R G'd out here, one of these will break an 18k tie. So if you have this triple against an Omega triple, making this 19k will win that lane. But always keep in mind, if you hit a Valganus, this lane will still lose. So you might have to plan around that accordingly. But two good triples. Now these are really two good doubles then you can play around in between lanes. So with this one, 17k on play, really good. With this, you even get to 18k, so even better. This one, of course, 13k or 16k against Kaijus. So if you're going against Kaiju, it's a 16k, which will beat it. Or if you're going against most Ultra Heroes, 13k also beats that. So pretty solid setup there. And then, of course, your level 4s will be 20k. So what I like to do with this is in lane 1, I'm trying to draw, maybe play one of these to draw a card and then build to a triple. And then pretty much lanes 2 and 3, I'm only playing level 2s. And I'm waiting to level them up, either based on what my opponent's playing, so I can try and match up, like if it's Kaiju, play at 13k, or if it's like a hero, play at 14k. Or delaying playing these guys until it's that turn I really need to either survive, or I'm ready to win lane 4. So this, it's all just kind of thinking about how do you play your first 4 turns. Once you get this lane card out on the field, that BP grade up will like cancel out any Valganuses and be able to win some of your weaker lanes between this. So this game, or this deck's goal is to win on turn 5. So how that kind of works is you pretty much do everything you can to get the scene, whether it's a scene search or you're just drawing cards with this. You're winning lane 4 by either playing your Zeton or like a 2-3 of this or something with the BP grade up from here. And then what will end up happening is if you have this card on the field, you have a really strong chance at winning lane 5. Like if you play this as a single, or this is a single BP grade up, it's 14k, play this as a double, play this as a double, and then with this, 18k. So lane 5 is usually secure. Now lane 4 is also a lane you typically end up winning, whether you played a Zeton or you built something really big, that BP grade up, you can get this guy again to 17k. And you're usually winning lanes 4. And then from there, you're probably winning a combination of either lanes 2 or 3. Your opponent, unless they're building triples every lane, there will be at least a lane that is weaker double, and then this deck typically has stronger doubles, and then with the BP grades up from the scene and this, you'll end up having a stronger double than theirs. So that's pretty much a game plan. And then with these cards, you're able to deal with a lot of Kaijus. Now, if you wanted this deck to be a little more versatile against, let's say, non-Omegas, then these are 2 other cards you might still want to consider. So this is the level 3 from BP3. This is the Magnificent Power Type Double R. Now this one has an activate as a double or triple, and pretty much you can give it a BP grade decrease to your battle opponent by discarding a card if they are a power or armed type. Now with this meta, power or armed, like there are many decks that use it. Jeeds, of course, run power armed, as we can see. Tiga has some power types. Decker has arm types. Omega doesn't really have too many power armed, so this card isn't as good against Omega, but Zero has some power and arm types, so kind of interesting to play. This one's a little bit more meta dependent, but could be an alternative to your Kaiju Killer Jade Claw. It's a 7, 12, 17k, so this one, if you're comparing both of these, this is a better triple, but this one is a better double. So something to keep in mind. Though if you're playing more of these, then you'll have more power types. Then it might make sense to even swap out your Jade Claws for like a 9, 14, 16, 14k doubles, just like this one. Very effective. You do miss out on not being able to use Activate, but you have no more arm types. And then you have a better chance of using the Magnificence ability. So those are definitely like some cards you might want to consider changing and mixing up here to play against other decks. But yeah, pretty much this is the Jade Kaiju Killer deck profile. If you're playing against Omega, this one can definitely give them a hard time between some of these effects. Zeton, if you have the Zeton, Really try and play this turn 4 no matter what. That'll guarantee you lead for scene. Any other card is always at risk, of course, to losing to a Valganus. But if you need to play it earlier to survive, that's always, of course, more important than playing it on turn 4, but you kind of just make with what you can do. So yeah, this is the G deck. Again, like when you pick your starting hand, really think about how you want to use these cards. If your hand looks something like, I don't know, this, you have the scene, you want to live to turn 4, you might have, a turn 1 to draw your card. You'll probably want to build towards a triple like this, or see if you can draw into Magnificent. And then you kind of just like stall it out from there. You might play this card as a pair on turn 3. This will make sure you tie that lane, or you actually could play a level 1 on turn 3, maybe draw another card, and then you play this on turn 4. That will tie it, keeping you in the game, assuming you have a double. And then from there, you're just kind of playing your 2s and just figuring out what's the best combination of level 3, 2-3 doubles to win the game. So yeah, this has been the deck. Check out the match videos and see how you like it, and let us know in the comments what you think about the G Kaiju Killer. You can always, of course, if you're facing too much trouble with Belials and Zetons, maybe you could throw in some starter deck zeros or some other zeros, just enough to turn off any pesky Zetons. But yeah, thank you.